Okay, Bob, let's get to it now. LeBron James is kind of, I have sympathy for the guy because I think he's sort of a forgotten man, but because of the way the team's played and the way things have gone for the Lakers. But he's the only player, as of getting the assist last night in the loss to the Suns, the only player with over 10,000 points, 10,000 rebounds, and 10,000 assists. He's one of three with 35,000 points. You have seen it all. Put this into perspective for us.
The fact that he's accumulated the statistics to that number testify to the longevity factor, which is remarkable too. He's playing at an extremely high level at 37, and he's always been a triple-doubling kind of guy. So this is no shock. It's just a matter. It was going to happen. If he stayed long enough, he would wind up near the top in all the relevant categories. He could wind up being the all-time leading scorer, which wasn't necessarily foreseen even a couple of years ago. If he continues playing this way and scoring this way. The fact that he's going to have all these assists is no shock. He's actually coming off a league-leading assist season. I still maintain not as good a passer as Larry Bird, but the next best thing. Remember, he's got the ball all the time. The thing that made Larry so interesting about his assist was the relatively small amount of seconds and minutes that he actually had the ball in his hands during the course of a game. Larry saw things 2 passes in advance, and when he got it, they knew what to do with it in a way that very few people ever have. LeBron's got the ball all the time. He's basically a surrogate point guard. But it's yet another reminder of this guy's incredible skill level. Interesting, Gary. The haters fascinate me. I was down on him on the decision. You know when the decision was? 2010.
Oh, it was forever ago.
Get over it. If that's someone's problem, get over it.
Well, to me, Bob, that's the only thing you can get on him for. If that's it.
I mean, it's certainly not, the other thing is his basketball, the difference, the fact is that he had to have a catharsis about who he is on the court and how to act appropriately to relative to his skill. What I mean by that is I've long said the big difference between he and Michael as to how they got to the top of the profession during their respective eras was this. Michael Jordan did not win, and I know people will dispute this, did not win at all until he learned how to share. He made passes to the likes of John Paxson and the second one I know.
Well, Steve Kerr, that won championships games that he wouldn't have made in 1997. He wouldn't have. He passed, excuse me, not 97. 87.
He wouldn't have made those passes until he made them in 91 and on. He won championships. LeBron, by contrast, did not win until after this almost the disgrace of the Dallas series in 2011, when he didn't seem to want the ball the way he should have wanted the ball. And I didn't want to believe that, but then again, I did see him quit on the team in against the Celtics the year before.
Right. And
until he accepted the responsibility of being the best player on the floor and acting accordingly. And he just still gets criticized. He got criticized already in the last 2 weeks for making a pass in a game they lost to Carmelo Anthony, a wide open Anthony, who's on the floor for one reason and on the team for one reason. LeBron loves him, and the fact that he's still a shooter, and he missed the shot. So it's LeBron's fault because he made the right pass to the right guy who didn't deliver, and now people are on LeBron. Here's what I'm getting at, Gary. I walk out of the Garden last night. We're going to talk about Garnett, of course. I walk out of the Garden last night, and they're hawking a T-shirt. LeBron's a douche. And I'm going, what world am I living in? I mean, Jeter sucks. We went through all that.
Oh yeah.
Now it's LeBron's a douche. So that the haters are out there, Gary, and they're never going to be satisfied. We have to just resign ourselves to that.
Well, I always found it amazing that even LeBron said this week that he doesn't like to be called a scorer. To your point, where he had to become more selfish. Mm-hmm. For whatever reason, he wanted to be known as a complete player and share the ball. And it still bothers him to this day. And I think it is a tribute to him that he is willing to share the ball and he does have the assists.
He's a great passer. He knows how to play the game properly. He was taught to play the game properly. It's clear. And he absorbed the lessons. And he's always been a team guy. I keep going back to that documentary about that was done about his high school team. And
Right.
someone started taking picking them up when they were sophomores, and they won as sophomores, and they lost as juniors, and the whole senior season was a vindication redeem team thing for St. Vincent St. Mary, and they did win. But you come away watching that. What's the name of that? When We Were Kings, is that the name of it? No,
I think so. I'm not sure.
And you come away watching that saying, what a teammate. He was always cognizant. Yeah, he knew, obviously, everybody knew who the best player was, but he wanted to be one of the guys all the time. And he's never been a selfish player. If anything, he's been too unselfish. And that's the fact.
A record number of employees are considering switching jobs. So now's your chance to try to attract them. LinkedIn Jobs is going to help you connect with people that you want to interview faster and for free. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond, the world's largest professional network of over 770 million people. Then add your job and the purple #hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring for your network. All right, so you need to get the right people to hire. This is the way to do it. Simple tools like screening questions makes it easier to focus on candidates who have the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you want to interview and hire. That's why small business rates LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Okay, I was one of the 40 million. Post your job for free on linkedin.com/scribe. That's linkedin.com/scribe to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. So, I mean, when you take a look, and you know both gentlemen, I think very well, probably as well as anybody in the media. Michael, he's not necessarily a friendly guy, and LeBron is very friendly.
The reason I would pick Michael over LeBron if push came to shove, I got to win tonight, is that Michael is a ruthless prick.
Right.
And has no trouble being a ruthless prick. LeBron isn't, and he isn't. He just isn't. And he's not as fiercely, ruthlessly competitive as Michael, who is. Well, we're going to talk about one guy coming up who was pretty in that category, and but not many, and not many. The point is, not many. Nobody with one guy approached him with that skill set and that competitiveness, and that was Kobe.
Right.
And Kobe is Michael.
He wanted to be Michael. He wanted to be Michael.
And he mirrored Michael as well in every way, as much as anyone ever has. And if you had to go to war with Kobe instead of either Michael or LeBron, you'd be doing pretty well in that one too. So I wouldn't worry about that. But point is, no. So that's it. The competitiveness thing is extraordinary, and very, Russell was like that, but not in a different way. But Russell was clearly, obviously, incredibly competitive. But he was very sharing, obviously, and he had a different skill set. His game was entirely different. So, that's not even an apt comparison, except in the fact that they both were highly competitive.
Now, I know you were very excited to be at the Garden where they raised number 5 for Kevin Garnett. Before we start on that, were you at the private ceremony when Russell's number was raised?
Yes. And I thought about it last night. And I actually thought about tweeting something, which I knew right away would be stupid because it would be misinterpreted. Because and I said, Bob, don't do it. They're not going to get what you.
Well, explain your theory. What were you thinking, and why didn't you tweet it?
I was thinking, what a contrast between this extraordinary hoopla, a spectacle, a TV special, and the circumstances in which Bill Russell demanded, all right, I'll let you do it, but you're going to do it on my terms.
Right.
Those terms were, he shows up as a broadcaster for a game on a Sunday afternoon, and they're going to raise the number before the game, before the crowd, before the doors are open, with no crowd, and the only people who witnessed the ceremony were the media who were there and the Garden workers. And that was the Bill Russell's approach to having his number retired. And I was thinking the contrast, and I was going to say, what a contrast. And yet it would come off that I was somehow unhappy with what was happening.
Correct. Right. You're just pointing out. I
wasn't unhappy with what I was just commenting on. Wow. I was at both of these things. You couldn't be more, I may be the only person in the building last night who was at the Russell thing.
Right, that's what I mean.
It's 1974, so it predates even Jeff Twist, our great friend and public relations director of the Celtics, who's been there for over 40 years. We're talking 47 years now, 48 years, excuse me. And I'm very likely am the only person who was at both of those ceremonies.
Right, I would, yeah, I could, because I remember interviewing Russell when I was working for Channel 4, and we'll get to Garnett here, but we're rambling. It's a podcast, yeah, we can.
Sure.
But I remember interviewing Russell because he did that event for his sister or his daughter, right? Which was for the mentoring program. And I think it was Brian Gumbel who came back and did the interview and hosted it at the Garden.
He did the big ceremony in '99.
Right. And that's what I'm talking about. And I said, because I said to him, I go, what about the retirement? And he says, I told Red would come in the morning. And there was still my interpretation of that, and I'll let you confirm it or deny it, is that there was still something that Russ, an issue that he still had with the fans, kind of, I think. And that's why he wanted it private. I don't think he wanted to give the fans the benefit of that moment. And then when you go back and you read about like what the guy went through, where, I mean, the stories have been well documented, where he's cheered on the floor and he goes home and the N-word is written across his bedroom wall in excrement, so that's why he did it, right?
I think I don't remember him specifically saying,
that's my read.
We just took it, that's Bill Russell. You weren't surprised. It was classic Russell. The other possible reason, and I think you're very likely correct. The other possible reason is that he didn't want to do it as an individual, that he felt he was always a member of a team.
Right.
Now, but it's funny. I don't remember. I'm going to have to go back and look it up now, really, and see what was written at the time, because I'm curious as to what we even said about why we just took it. It was just, oh, that's Russ. You know what I mean?
Well, that's him. Yeah. Well, that was him. That was him.
That's Russ. But anyway, I thought about it last night, but I didn't until we were speaking now. Think about the possibility, or almost a guarantee, that I, Bob Ryan, am the only person who was at both of those ceremonies. It's now, and the only other way, there's no other back from the media left that was working in '74 that's working in Boston right now. Okay, I can tell you that right now. There's nobody in Boston.
Well, yeah, I mean, Bob, I thought about it last night when you texted me saying you were at the Garden.
Yeah,
I mean, I immediately thought of it.
And the other thing,
what am I going to do, Ryan? I come up with the name of your book. I remember all your historic places. I mean, I'm your PR guy, Bob. I'm your PR guy.
I did give you credit now. That's not.
You're totally. I agree.
Full credit. You deserved it. I can still see us sitting here in the NBC Boston. In fact, we were Comcast. I mean, we weren't even NBC Boston yet. And you said, Scribe, that'd be a good name for your book. Bingo. Thank you.
Bingo, bango. Anyways, so to Garnett, and I want to talk about Garnett, but I also want to get your feeling on like the whole retired number thing with the Celtics.
Oh yeah.
Because that's very controversial is a strong word, but always up for debate. So what did you think about Garnett last night? What did you think about the whole thing?
Well, he made it work. He starts off with the F-bomb and it gets everybody laughing, but he made it work. His personality, the distinctiveness of him made it work. There'd never been another ceremony, quite like it, that elaborate for any number. Larry had a night a year later. Remember that? That was a great night. That's a different matter. But Larry's night was in February of '93 after he had retired in '92.
Right.
But that was different, and that was Larry. But it kind of the biggest problem was the half-hour delay. Why couldn't they set everything up and get going in 15 minutes? It was almost 40 minutes, I think, before we got started after the game ended. That was the biggest problem. But the video was the one thing I thought was overdone. They kept feeding recurrent these tributes from people, including these fans, and once would have been enough.
Right.
Of that. They did too much of that. So that I was that. But the video was good. The thing worked, and also very clever. This is what they do. They must have borrowed this from the people that at the sports museum who with the tradition in which we don't do speeches. I say we. They don't do speeches. It's a Q&A.
Right. And he did with Scout, yeah.
And then it can be restricted, the questioner. Okay, that worked. And that's what they did. Instead of, he didn't have to there and address the people. Actually, Paul Pierce made a speech in retrospect, but he did Q&A with Scout. Okay, he was a teammate, as a matter of fact. And had a great story. And had some great stories and allusions to tell, about him. So that worked. And I was kept thinking maybe it was going a little too long because we were there so damn long, but it worked. And then so I thought overall I give it an A-. Good.
When I looked at it, I just remember when it all went down, when Danny made the deal for Ray, and I remember Donnie Marshall and I were doing the pre and post game at the time. And I think Donnie played golf. I mean, I don't think I'm telling anything out of school, tales out of school, but I think either Doc or Danny said to Donnie on the golf course, "We're not done yet." And that was it. Like, Danny deserves a lot of credit. Unfortunately, the Kyrie thing didn't work out for Danny, but Danny put that, and McHale, I know they were buddies and all that, but he still had to make it work. Here's the thing, Bob, if you had told me, like when Kevin Garnett was with the Timberwolves, that Kevin Garnett was going to come to the Celtics and win a championship, I would have said, you're crazy. I mean, the fact that they were able to put that whole thing together,
well, here's the thing.
Quite amazing.
I'm glad you brought that up. One thing in the video, it made him out to be a total savior. The whole thing about 08, when it was Garnett, and he was a driving force. There's no question. He tied the defense together. He brought his spirit. All that was true. And I'm thinking, oh boy, and Ray's sitting here watching this. The only reason that that was left unsaid in this whole thing, the only reason that Garnett consented to the trade, which he had power veto over, was that Danny had already acquired Ray Allen.
Right.
If he hadn't acquired Ray Allen on draft night by trading the 5th pick of the draft to Seattle for Ray Allen, and doesn't have Ray Allen to go with Paul Pierce, Garnett's not coming here.
Agreed.
And I'm thinking, and I didn't know yet how I figured they must have reconciled if Ray was there at all, which it turns out that they said.
Well, they hugged, which was good. Yeah.
But I'm thinking, boy, if I'm Ray, I'm sitting there going, wait a minute, there's something missing in this canonization of Kevin Garnett for this 07-08 team, because if I'm not there, he ain't coming, and that's the truth. But I've just thought about that. It was.
Well, it's true. I mean, I remember when KG got here and they went to Europe, and KG bought suits for all the rookies, and he set a tone. Now, Pierce. It's so funny because it just goes to show how basketball is, despite the stars, is still a team game. When you mentioned they all had their roles, and KG set the tone because Pierce the year prior thought he was going to get traded. Yeah, they had been terrible.
Lost 18 in a row. Of course, he missed those games. That part of that overlap, a lot of the overlap and injury to him. They're not losing 18 in a row at Pierce's, but they did lose 18 in a row. So that's
and so Pierce comes back. He plays defense for the first time in his life. Ray Allen plays defense for the first time in his life because the big guy in the back, number 5, says, "You're going to play defense." But then still, KG missed those 2 foul shots and out in LA. Ray could have been the MVP of the finals. I mean, Pierce got the nod. Ray struggled earlier, but it's like everybody did their job. It's like, Pierce was reborn. KG set the tone. You come into our house, you're going to pay the price. And Ray hit big shots, and it just all worked. And if KG doesn't get hurt, they win another one. And if Kirk doesn't get hurt, they win a third.
Well, that's it. No, I totally agree. They went in they were even better in 09 until he got hurt. And 2010, that gripes me. That 7th game kills me. I run through it all the time. They still could have won that 7th game, but even despite not having Perk, but I blame that on Wallace. Wallace they needed one good game. Do something for the team.
Yeah, so giving KG his due now. Where do you? It's so hard now when people say, "Is he a top 15 player?" Like, is Tatum a top 15? There are so many good players in the NBA. Like, in my opinion, the league is so good. The players are so talented. I mean, I started to see it. My son, when he was playing youth basketball, and my son loves basketball, and we go play some AAU games, I started to see it where these young athletic players not only had this tremendous athleticism, but they understood the game. I mean, Bob, there are so many great players now.
Yeah, of course there are. And I'd say he's in the 15 to 20.
I guess so. And he's awesome. It's like, it's no disrespect, but it's like when you sit there and you go, and we're not just talking, we're talking about players that understand the game. They know how to play defense. They know what they're doing. I mean, it's so hard.
No, he does how to, he's always known, he came knowing how to play. The thing I mentioned is the great imponderable, of course, we'll never know because unfortunately the other guy, we all know what happened to Kobe Bryant. But if he isn't a success, remember, he's the first guy to come out of high school in about 20 years.
Right.
There was that batch of, the Darryl Dawkins and the Bill Willoughby crop and 20 years earlier. And then the Wolves shut, and then, that ended. And when they drafted him in Kevin drafted him in 95, right? I think it was 95, whatever. It was the first time it had happened in a long time. And if he isn't a success, and I don't know that Kobe would have come out right away. He wouldn't have gone to Duke for a year, at least a couple of years. But he was a success, and I was really important to the whole thing. But where were we going with him? Oh yeah, it was for. I talked to Kevin at the time. I wrote when he went into the Hall of Fame. I wrote the program story. And I remember talking to Kevin, and Kevin was talking about how blown away he was, by the workouts and all. But he always knew how to play. I remember the first game he played in Boston, and what I remember most was his passing, and his feel. His feel was it was so obvious. His feel for the game was ideal, And what we didn't know, and what became an issue right up to the end, was he was and Ray, Doc speaks this all the time. You had to force him to shoot the ball.
I know. He wouldn't shoot the ball. I know.
And I said he scored 25,000 points without people remembering him ever taking a shot.
Right.
And Doc told a wonderful story about a playoff game in which they were talking about moving the ball and doing this and the punchline of Kevin, we're moving the ball to you. and Kevin, he only, in the whole run in 08, he had one game winning basket, or one game clinching late second, the 10th basket.
Right.
One, because it wasn't what he did. He just wasn't in him. PJ Brown had one, so they each had one. But anyway, but you talk about roles. I just want to go back. You talk about roles in that team. That team was just loaded with them. I mean, Rondo came to life that year. Rondo blossomed that year.
He did.
They don't win without Posey. They don't win without Eddie House. They don't win without PJ Brown. Who the big three recruited him during the All-Star break.
I remember. I think they were in New Orleans or something.
Yes.
If Pierce jumps out of the cab and sees PJ.
But it all worked beautifully, and then it culminated in the greatest exclamation point, Game 7 in it was Game 6. It was in NBA history, 131-92. I'll go to my grave remembering that score, Gary.
I remember. Bob, you talk about how he was reluctant to take the final shot. That worked with Pierce. You know what I mean? There wasn't that. It wasn't that push. He was okay with letting Pierce take the final shot. Pierce totally take the final shot.
Well, he's playing. Think about it. He's playing with Pierce. He's playing with Ray, one of the great shooters of handful of greatest shooters of all time, who of course did have one of the most famous baskets. Subsequently, in his next uniform, one of the most famous baskets in finals history. Right. He wins a championship.
It always bothered me. The rift between the two bothered me because Ray went to Miami for less money, and KG really held that against him. And I was like, Ray sees the right, and then with Ray and Rondo, there's a lot of theories why they didn't get along. None, which I will discuss in public. Sometimes when you're working from home, you're not on the same page as everybody else. I mean, believe me, keeping Goodman and Ryan on the same page isn't so easy. So if you're spread across the country and you want to be focused, headed in the same direction, you got to try Coda. Let me tell you about it. Teams that are working across the country, you're using documents and spreadsheets. You got a stack of workflow. You got to jump in and out of it all day. So this is how Coda can help you keep everything organized. It is endlessly customizable and connected. There are templates for anything and everything. Product roadmap, I should say, remote onboarding, OKR tracker, meeting notes, you name it, Coda has it. So everything that you're all working on is all in one place. So it adapts to also growth and changing strategies. So it's flexible. It changes how you view information depending on what you need and who you need to do it with. And perhaps most importantly, Coda seamlessly integrates with tools you need. Everything in Coda is synced. Make an update in a table, and it automatically shows up everywhere. So some dude in like Walla Walla, Washington knows that you made a change here in Boston, Massachusetts. Never been to Walla Walla. I'm sure it's nice. No more copying and pasting and emailing and and this and that. And see, it's just, you do it once, everybody knows, and the project is current. Your team can operate on the same information and collaborate the way you want to, quickly and efficiently. So with Coda, you can solve just about anything right now. Get started with your team working together on the same page for free. Wait a minute, let me see. Is this right? That's what it says. Capital letters too. FREE, free. Head over to coda.io/scribe. That's CODA.io to get started for free. Coda.io/scribe. You know, I'm just glad that KG and Ray made up, because it always bothered me that Kevin Garnett held it against Ray for going to Miami for less money and another chance to win.
No, he's a complex man. Believe me.
He is.
There's a hard edge in there. There's a lot of stuff in there. It's a very complex guy, and he chose to take that route with Ray. And I just hope this is all sincere now. That what we saw last night, because there's gonna be a million photos of the three hug. And I love the thing. Pierce when Ray and KG were hugging, and like Pierce is going, "Hey, don't forget about me."
Yeah, don't forget about me.
Out there, to make it. Oh, I can think of the last scene of Mary Tyler Moore. Think about it with the huggy. Remember the big hug?
Oh, yes, classic.
I hope it's all for real. You know who really is, I'm sure, pleased? The proud papa, because I've talked to him about this. Like, we did a podcast. I did a podcast with Doc. This bothered Doc.
Right.
That there was a problem, that there was a stream. This rapprochement will please Doc immensely.
Right.
If it's for real.
So how do you feel about the banners?
Okay,
the numbers at the Garden?
There are two franchises in sports that'll have overdone the banners, overdone the retired numbers, overdone the pageantry, the self-importance, that they have.
Right.
The other one, of course, resides in the Bronx. Okay. And the Celtics went over the top long ago with the numbers thing. And
Red did it.
Yeah. And now it's a runaway train thing. You got, this one is controversial because he only played here 6 years. It's the least number other than Reggie Lewis, which is the that we're all fine with that, but 6 years, I don't know, a championship. We all agreed, you and I agreed that should have been 3, could have easily been without any, at least 2.
Right.
But I said it was a complete separate, in the history of the Celtics, you got the 50s, 60s gang, you got the Cowens, Havlicek, 2 championships, then you got the big 3 championships, and it's a whole other era. This was what we've had 1 championship in 36 years, and this was 2086 until it was 22 years.
Yeah.
So this is a whole other era. So if you would look at it that way, he was the cornerstone player or the pivotal player that made possible the last championship. I suppose it's easy to argue, but there's too many damn numbers up there.
I mean, you look at it, and just off the top of my head, you think Russ, and then God, there's so many guys on that 60s team. Tommy, maybe, Tommy before he got hurt.
All right, look, you got first of all, you start with the Rushmore. The Rushmore is easy. Russell, Havlicek, Bird, and Cousy, and whatever, chronologically. The next level.
Count.
That's the next. You draw the line. That's the Rushmore. Okay, for me. That and chronologically, Cousy, Russell, Havlicek, Bird. All right, there's your 4. Then the next level, Tommy. He's Mr. Celtic if there ever was Mr. Celtic. I mean, in terms of longevity, serving the franchise in 3 capacities. Player, coach, and broadcaster. He was a Celtic from 1956 and never not a Celtic. I mean, even when he was retired and he was an insurance man, he immediately became a broadcaster too.
Sure.
So anyway, you got him. Cowan certainly for me would be next. Sam has to be there. And then of course, talk about another guy. participated in championships, KC, as a Celtic. But anyway, it's when you get to the Nelsons. I love Don Nelson, of course. When you get to 19, you get to Satch 16. Lusky, that one. Come on.
God bless him, but
No, really. No.
Yeah, I know.
So we could go on. I don't want to start disparaging.
No. But that just, I understand that, but I just find it.
Max is marginal. Max is marginal.
Well, I mean, Max. Listen, no, you won't be a bigger Max fan than me. But the fact that he was around, I'm a broadcaster, I think helped.
All right, but they have now. Anyway, it's a little bit cluttered up there, but so sort of there they're going to have number 33A, number 15B.
Well, I know you're running out of numbers. I mean, so do you think Ray gets it now?
Ray's, the same level of tenure. I know Garnett stumped for that last night, in the sense of it was a big three, and you needed them all to do it, and the other two are up there, but we'll see what they do.
I think they'll do it next year. I think they'll do it because now it's also good for the gate. Let's face it.
Oh yeah.
Good for the gate.
So,
okay.
But the overall question, it is, even though it worked. I think people went out there with appropriate. Oh, and of course the jackpot. And I was waiting for it, and they did it. And if they hadn't, I would have chastised them. You know how we exited the Garden? You know what was happening?
No.
The Gino video.
Yeah.
And, that was perfect.
Perfect.
Now, we kept waiting. I was hoping the Celtics would win the game in a rout. So, and said they got to do it. If they, but of course they lose the game, but they did it. They showed the bandstand video, and they asked him about it, and he just said, when I was out of the game and the game was in hand and over, I just shut off, the juices and just enjoyed, everybody knows he never paid it. He was the biggest fan of the Gino video. It
was crazy. They played it for him.
Well, we exited the Garden to it. That was
good for them. On a final note from the Garden, we also want to say, good to see Heather Walker out, and the hero among us, who's has had the cancerous fight, and she is brave and she's doing wonderful. So Heather, thumbs up.
Yeah, I was able to speak with Heather before the game over at Fenway Johnny's, and there'll be a night for her on April 11th.
Good to know.
Heather. And yeah, I know it's well, yes, we Heather, we love you. She knows that. Yeah.
On a final note, Bob, do you have it as Mr. Goodman is out pounding the NCAA?
Yeah, I just want to say the overview of the tournament. It's a very interesting tournament. We had a number of teams that were number one until over the course of the year that shared the number one. Gonzaga in the beginning, Gonzaga fell down. Gonzaga came back. There's no drop dead favorite. Gonzaga's the overall number one seed. They've lost some games. I think it's going to be a real fun tournament. I think it's a lot of. I just think it's going to be really good. I'm rooting for them because this has been going on a long time now. Gonzaga entered our consciousness in 1999. They were the team that UConn beat the first year of their champion. They won the championship to get there. They were there. That was the final 8 game, and they beat Gonzaga, and that started the run that Gonzaga's been on. And they the one thing that's good for them this year is they don't have the burden of being undefeated. That is they don't have that burden. I'm rooting for them. I'd like to see them break through. One team that I just comment on, I think that Duke, this whole Coach K farewell thing, and I'm not blaming him, but I think the kids are not handling this very well. Tight. They lost it. They they shouldn't lose to Virginia Tech in that game. No, and the Carolina game at home. I think the pressure is an awful lot on these Duke kids, and they're not handling it so well. But I'm really looking forward to it. A lot of I have these outliers I root for. South Dakota State. Come on, let's go Jackrabbits. Murray State, who, by the way, if Murray State wins their first game, guess who they're going to get to play? And you'll think this will be an emotional game. They would play Kentucky. Yeah. And that would be in the state of Kentucky. There would be no traffic in the streets. It would remind me of when I was in Toronto in 1972 at the first Canada Cup. On the first day against Russia, we were up there, the Celtics were up there and to play the Buffalo Braves in an exhibition. And I am telling you that at 2:00 in the afternoon, because the game was in Moscow at night,
Right.
You could have fired 6 cannons down Yonge Street. Everybody in the Dominion of Canada was watching that game,
Sure.
That's what's the Commonwealth of Kentucky will be like that if Murray State's playing Kentucky in the second round. Root for Murray State to get to that game.
Bob, always great, my friend. I'm glad you were at KG's Swan Song, and we'll talk to you next week.